Welcome to the Void. Or something. So, we are going to go over today a video by Arielle Scarcella. Is that her name? Arielle Scarcella. If I say it wrong, please correct me. I want to make sure I say these people's names correctly because that's basic, decent thing to do. Um, she is going to review someone who is going to transition because their headmates are trans dudes. Now, I want to be clear here. I am a trans person. I'm a trans woman. Non binary, but trans woman. Um, I have a headmate who is a trans man who identifies as a man but does not have the traditional genitalia in his idealized form. I know that's going to be weird to think about, but think about it this way. Trans people often I think about their form and think about what they would want to look like, and not everyone's um, ideal body is going to be the same as everyone else's. Some people have um, some people have bodies that are look male and have different genitalia. Some people have bodies that look male but still have a chest. Some people have bodies that look female but have different genitalia, or still have facial hair, or um, they look male but wear makeup. Like, there's a lot of different ways you can present. Now, as for the headmate thing, all headmates that I've encountered, at least, are valid, and their experiences are just as real as anyone else, because a headmate is a person. And that's where the conversation ends. That's where the conversation ends. A headmate is a person. And how they identify and how they experience life is just as important to them as how the host of the system feels. So I want to go through some basic terms about plurality and just give a basic education on that before we get into this, because I have not watched this and I do not know how much Arielle knows about plurality or headmates or headspaces or any of that. I am new myself, so I will not pretend to be the end-all be-all of this information. I will just give some basic overviews of how this works. So you can have headmates. Usually people get headmates after experiencing a lot of trauma, and they have to compartmentalize and repress certain things, and it comes out being expressed in different ways. This does not mean that your headmates are traumatized and evil, as most stereotypes would have you believe. But what it does mean is that the headmates can have different experiences and identities than you do based on what they are holding and just how they experience and just the experiences that they go through. Their identities are just as valid as anyone else's because, as I said before, each headmate is its own person. So if the headmates want to, and I need to find better language because the way I'm describing it makes it sound like the headmates are separate entities as a unit from this other person, but no, this person is this person on the right that we're looking at is just as all of her headmates, all of her, I believe, headmates are just as much of a person. Everyone here is a person. So if they are trans and they want to transition, they should be able to, provided that there's not some conflict, such as in myself, where I'm a trans woman, but I have a headmate who's a trans man, and we've worked out a way to have our own experiences, such as I have a binder, but I don't wear it. My headmate does. This person may want to do transition in other ways. this system, I mean, may want to transition in other ways, and if that's okay with everyone in the system, that's great. Think you just have to negotiate with your system and make sure that everyone's on the same page. But if that's what they've agreed on, then good. That is my stance going in. That is my stance knowing nothing about the takes that are being held. That is just based on the title and my own experiences, how I would defend this or explain this. If you have any questions about plurality, please let me know, either in the chat or down in the void below, down in the comments, and I would be happy to answer them, at least to the best of my own personal information. But let's see what Arielle has to say.
Strange video today, I know, so please let me know if you guys keep enjoying this type of content. Make sure you subscribe and give this video a big like down below. Lets me know.
Genuinely, who would enjoy a video that's this disorganized, that she jumps into at least 3 or 4 different topics that have no relation to anything else? She talked about she talked about weed for like a good third to fourth of the video. She talked about DID and trans issues for like 2-3 minutes, maybe 2.5 minutes, and then she talked about random trans body issues of like wanting to remove certain parts of your body or wanting to change certain parts of your body because it's uncomfortable to you for the rest of it, because you just had nothing to say. There was nothing here. There was no content. There was no point made. There was nothing but bad jokes and her saying, oh, isn't this weird? Oh, isn't that weird? Huh. Well, I definitely support these people, but it certainly is weird, and I hope they get the help they need. Wink, wink, nudge, nudge. I.e., they stop believing this crazy stuff. These silly kids who, with their TikToks and their and their trans ableism and their all. God. I'm annoyed because I genuinely wanted a cool discussion about DID and trans issues. So instead of giving I keep forgetting her name. I'm so bad with names. Giving Ariella the last word, we're just going to keep it here. I'm going to tell you instead about our trans experience with DID, because I feel like that at least will be relatable to the topic at hand of headmates being trans and what do you do. As I said before, I am a trans non-binary woman. I have a headmate who, given my current status as a transitioning woman, is a trans man. I think that if he had appeared before I transitioned, he would simply be comfortable in the body I had. No, he'd still want to transition. Okay. Cool. Sorry about that. Headmate discussion. So, actually, do you want to hang on a moment? All right. Hi, Marduk. I would like to discuss this since this applies to my own identity. Firstly, I would like to say DID is valid, and we just did switch so that I could come and describe this in my own words. I identify as a trans man. I identify my ideal form, my form that would not give me dysphoria, is the body of what is typically seen as a man, but with female genitalia. I will say that. I will say it in that way. Regardless of whether I emerged before or after Kaden began her transition, I would have wanted to transition in some way so that I could get the body that I would prefer. Now, I do not require a medical transition for my own comfort. I understand that other headmates would. Caden certainly did. And I am fine with her continuing on her transition and having breasts and losing body hair and all of that stuff, because that does not matter to me and how I see myself. It does not matter to our other headmate either. They would be more along the lines of what she is saying is trans ableist, where you would like the removal of certain body parts. We will not be able to do that, unfortunately, simply because we would not be able to remove them for air and put them back on for the rest of us. So we will have to compromise and keep things going as they are naturally, unless until we get medical advice and go through that. And I will say that would be the only thing that would change our minds on that. But the topic was, I was going to discuss my experiences. And that's really it. I identify as a he. I am non-binary, and I would like different genitals than we were given, but I do not require a medical transition. Caden does, and so we are medically transitioning in the direction she wants. As for the person in the beginning of this, I would like to skip back to her and listen to what she has to say, because I would like to give my own take on it. It is important that we fully understand this condition and the complexities that can come with having headmates that are different genders.
I'm cisgender, the majority of my headmates aren't, and we've decided to transition. Which means that as happy as I am for the men in my system, I am about to have to watch myself go through the wrong puberty. And it's gonna be permanent!
I have no...
Okay, and we're gonna skip her, because I just want to get all of this clip. I wish we had the link to the original. It would be very helpful currently. But as we do not, I will have to skip through this bitch. And I only use that term because it is a term I use for people who do not respect the identities of others.
I have a DID system, and for me right now, that means that in the coming months, I am going to be able to watch some of my best friends and some of my closest companions get the body of their dreams that matches their gender, that makes them feel happy, and in exchange, I'm going to have to give up my own.
I'm going to pause it there, because that description of headmates being your best friends is a good description of a healthy system. At least in our experience, headmates should be friends with each other because it promotes good communication and balance and care of the body that all of the headmates are in charge of. Headmates are all responsible for managing food and money and hygiene, all of that. There are many times where I have had to step in and take over doing a job that Caden was doing because she ran out of spoons, and I stepped in to ensure that the job got done so that we could make money and survive. Or there were times when I was distracted with a certain job. Often it would be Twitch prep, and Caden would step in to remind me to go eat or to go take a shower. And we would negotiate when we would have to get up. And there is a lot of communication and a lot of respect of boundaries that has to happen when you are in charge of a body. And yes, you do not have your own autonomy, as she's going to talk about. You have to balance your autonomy with other people's autonomy. It is not easy. to admit that, and Kaden is terrified of losing her autonomy. Yeah, I want to just talk about the autonomy bit, but I think we should keep going. As for the transitioning thing, I think I've said enough before. I'm proud of her for doing this. I wish her the best, and I do hope her friends, her headmates, take care of her, because she's gonna need a lot of care.
I'm cisgender. The majority of my headmates aren't. I don't think we talk enough about how DID gets rid of a person's bodily autonomy. You know, I hear people say all the time, the one thing you have control over is your own body and your own reactions, and I don't have that. This isn't my body. These aren't my reactions or my memories. I have like 30 people living in my brain, and
30 people's a lot. We have a system of 3, and managing that is a lot. I cannot imagine how busy a system of 30 would be, or even a system of 10. I would not be able to handle that. Going to my own discussion of autonomy, I'm someone who is very protective of myself, and personal experiences that have limited my ability to make decisions for myself have made me very adamant that I should have control of myself at all times, and so that I can make these decisions. And I do not. Simply put, I do not, because I have to allow my headmates to experience life and not trap them in my head. It's not fair to them. As unfair as it is to me that I have to experience situations where I cannot interfere and cannot, and have to do things that I am uncomfortable with or do not want to do. I'm not the one in charge of this body all the time, and I don't. It terrifies me that I'm. Sometimes I feel like I'm losing control, even because, in a sense, I am, but in a sense, we are gaining better control of our body. And if I keep the perspective of this is about us rather than this is about me, it's an easier perspective to look at this with. This transition that we are going through is about what makes all of us most comfortable. And ever since coming out as plural, we've had a lot of discussions about what makes us comfortable. Do we want to continue with this? What about surgeries? All of that stuff. And mostly what I've got back is keep doing what you're doing, Kaden, because it would make us more comfortable than if we stopped and went in the other direction. And so that has been helpful, and that has been reassuring that my headmates are willing to support my decisions and my autonomy. And that makes me more willing to support them in their pursuits of their autonomy. Like I said, we have a binder for Marduk, and we have other prosthetics that Marduk will wear when he wants to, when he is dealing with his own dysphoria. We have taken steps to ensure that everyone has the tools they need to be equipped to handle these difficult circumstances, while also ensuring that we don't interrupt anyone else's comfort. And it becomes this whole balancing act of, I have to do this for this person, and I have to make sure that I give space for them to do that. And there's times when I will let myself disappear into the headspace so that someone else can take control. And that's not an easy thing to let go. It's not when you have grown up having control of your body and having control of your own life be seen as a temporary issue that can be taken away by people with more authority. It's not easy to give it away to people who have the same level of authority but are in your own head. So trying to transition like this when you're the host and have to give up this much autonomy of your own self, it's a lot. At least I assume that she's the host. It is a lot. It is terrifying. And while I have said I respect her for it, I cannot help but empathize for her, because that is a huge amount of yourself that you have to give up because of a mental balancing act that you are not responsible for in the first place. You did not. No one who has DID gave DID to themselves. That's not how it works. So this lack of autonomy that she has to accept is scary, and scary because it's not something she has ever consented to, in the sense of like, I want to be in a situation where I have to give up this much autonomy. It just happened to her because of the actions of people around her. And that's not fair to her. It's also not fair to her headmates that she had to go through this stuff to be in this situation in the first place.
Everything I do belongs to us as a group. That's what's so hellish about this disorder. My parents fucked me up, and now I will never have full bodily autonomy. Anyways, everybody say congratulations to the men in my system, because they get to transition, and we're happy for them.
Okay, if any or all of...
I just want to skip back to that. Yeah, you would be happy for the people in your system, because you would feel their euphoria as they go through their transition. You would feel how excited they are, and feel every emotion that they go through. It would be a roller coaster, but it would make you happy in a way that's so much more intense than if it was your best friend. But at the same time, they would feel how uncomfortable it makes you. It's difficult. It's good for them. Good for them, the men. And it is a positive thing. But she's right to be upset about it, because it's unfair to her.
Congratulations to the men in my system, because they get to transition, and we're happy for them.
Okay. So, we're happy for them. Whoever that was, we wish her the best. And if you're plural and trans, or if you have anything that was discussed in this video and would like to talk about it, like to share about it, please leave it down in the void. Throw your thoughts, scream into the void. You're there to be heard. You're there to just let it all out. YouTube doesn't have a character limit. You can go as long as you need. I will read every comment. We will read every comment. The void loves you very much. Do all the YouTube things, and thank you.